Welcome, Wildcats, to Weber State Weekly's Women's Hoops Show, a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network. I am your host, Colby Peterson. On the show today, we have Jessica Euler, recently returned from the South, our neighbors just to the south in Alabama. Jessica, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty dang good. Went and watched Arkansas Razorbacks versus Alabama, and we did not embarrass ourselves. So I consider that a win.
Yeah, no, good. I mean, played a good team in Alabama and had a good time. Also on the show today, we got Brooke Minnick. Brooke, it's been a while since we had you on the show, but good to have you back talking women's hoops.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we appreciate you. So on the show today, we've got a player interview. We're going to be talking with Junior Forward Jadyn Matthews. She can talk to us a little bit about her journey from Redding, California, Northern California. I've got a question for her about that, all the way to Weber State. And then talking about just the way that the women's team has played this year, because they've been playing a little bit better, had some early success, and it's been, I think, snowballing, and been in a lot of games. So we're going to talk to her a little bit about some of the new faces on the team, talk about some of the things they did in the offseason, and some of the success they've had early. Then we're going to break down the game that the Lady Wildcats went on the road to UC Davis, who doesn't play in the Big Sky in other sports, just football. And so they're in the Big West for everything else. So non-conference game, but took the trip to Davis, and we're going to talk a little bit about that game. And then I've got a game for the ladies here today. We're going to be playing buy or sell. I've got some scenarios that we're going to put out there. We're going to see if they would buy or sell, see which one sticks. But before we get into all that, I want to encourage everyone to subscribe to the show, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all good places to find Weber State Weekly. We're also on YouTube if you want to rewatch some of these, or you want to watch them on Facebook or Twitter. We're on social media, of course, all of those platforms, and Instagram. And then we've got a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Weber State Weekly. Become a member of our group chat. We've got a game day chat in there where we talk about the games usually as they happen. Things are obviously going to shift now that football is over. We've got volleyball conference. It's not conference anymore. We got volleyball tournament going on. Wildcats find themselves in the NIVC, hosting in Ogden. So if you can, get up to Club Swenson this week. And we're talking about a bunch of things. So become a patron. Go to patreon.com/Weber State Weekly. You can get involved in some of that stuff. Plus, I've got some content for our patrons coming up. I got some planned. So, and then last thing is we've got to shout out our sponsor, Wildcat Rack. Wildcat Rack is a great place to buy some gifts for your Weber State fans in your family. Looking for good and cool apparel to wear to the games, because there are going to be a lot of them coming up this season. Check out wildcatrack.com. It's a great place to do it. Good local business. And they support the purple and white just as much as you do. All right, folks, now that we've kind of managed all of that, Junior Forward Jadyn Matthews, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, Jadyn, you've had a really good start to the season already. Been really kind of, I think, building up on the growth that you had in your sophomore season and coming out of the gate, really having a lot of success. But I want to take you all the way back to the beginning. Originally from Redding, California. It's in Northern California, if you're not familiar. And we've got some new recruits that have kind of rolled in recently, especially this year. Got some. There was a recruit from Piedmont that came in. I've been to Piedmont. It's a nice place, just outside of Oakland. But some others from kind of the Bay Area and a little bit north. But you're the OG, I think, Northern California recruit.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about how Weber State got on your radar and what made you ultimately decide that taking the trip up to Ogden was the place where you wanted to play your college basketball.
Yeah, so being from Redding, I didn't have a lot of exposure at all. I didn't even know what travel AAU was until I was about 17. Went and played for a team in Sacramento. I would drive 2.5 hours to go and play to get exposure from colleges. So Weber State reached out, I'm pretty sure through my AAU coach. Coach V happened to know my coach. I played his high school team in high school. So that's how the word got out to them. That's what I heard from Coach V, how she found out about me. And then from then on, just my contact with Coach V and then her assistant coaches at the time, I knew, like, just from my first couple of conversations, especially with her, that, you know, this was a place I wanted to be for, you know, my 4 years of basketball. So just, it was really what sold me was her. I didn't, like, before I took my visit, it was Coach V, the staff. They had me sold on their vision and what they wanted to do. So
decided to make the commitment, come out to Weber State, and I think it's been a good one thus far. I mean, you've had a lot of opportunity to play, and especially start last season. I mean, just a person who's been able to really make an impact early. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of that impact. I mean, I think that one of the things that you're best at, watching you last year and early this year, you're a player who has a nose for the ball. You averaged 5.8 rebounds in your freshman season, 6.5, and now 9.2 this season already. You also averaged 10 boards in high school. So you've always been a player who just finds the ball and tracks it down. And then I looked at the numbers in the conference. You're currently third in the conference in rebounds. So, I mean, talk to me a little bit about how you've been able to find yourself or been effective at bringing down the boards and giving your team an opportunity for extra possessions, because not everybody has that, but you seem to.
Yeah, well, I pride myself in my rebounding. My mindset every game is, I'm going to go in here and grab as many boards as I can, and the points will come. So that's always, the points are in the back of my mind. My mindset going into every game is like 100%. I'm going to rebound the ball. I'm going to get us extra possessions on offense and get the ball on defense and push the ball so we can go. So that is, I think that attack mentality as far as that rebounding, points will come.
Jessica or Brooke, questions for Jadyn here?
Yeah. So your first 2 seasons at Weber State had a lot of tough losses. You had some close games. Last year was a little bit tough. You ended up getting on a winning streak at the end of last year is what I'm going to say. We're starting it over again that way this year. How has the team been able to stay resilient and find that success early this season?
Yeah, gosh, the group of girls we have right now, I think the most resilient group we've had since I've been here. And I think we're all playing with a chip on our shoulder. Me, Darren Hickok, Corey, Emma Torbert, all the returners. We've been through, our losing season. And I think now no one really expects us to do anything. And so we go out there, we play hard every game. We're playing for us at this point. We can't really let anyone down. We just have everything to gain. So I think that helps us with our resilience. And then just having been there, myself and the returners, and then we can lead the younger people who have just gotten here. They can see, all right, these girls are trying to win. We have nothing to lose because we lay it out there every night. So I think that's great. And it helps with what we're trying to do for sure.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It sounds like you've got a pretty great team dynamic going on there.
For sure.
So like we kind of mentioned, there's been a number of new faces, a lot of turnover, a lot of new people this year. So how have you guys been able to build that chemistry pretty quickly and the success you've already had at the D? Yeah,
so the chemistry, that's good. Our starting 5 right now is actually 5 returners. And personally, I feel really comfortable with them on the court. We know how each other plays. And right now it's about, we're incorporating, every aspect we have, every weapon we have, and they are doing a really good job of, being what they need to be for us. And now it's just about building off of all the new people's strengths. It's our jobs as the returners to sit there, and we have to find what they're good at and, help them capitalize to make us better.
Yeah, definitely the case. Like you said, Jadyn, the starting group for this Wildcats team is pretty experienced. Almost all of it at the point, and then Darren Hickok, yourself, Corey Pencer, Emma Torbert, right? Like these are all players who have had the experience. They've, like you said, been through those losing seasons. Some of them, like Emma, have transferred in, and so a lot of experience in that starting unit. But then the bench unit, pretty young, and so opportunities for you all to kind of step up in leadership and kind of teach them kind of the ropes and how Wildcat basketball gets played in Ogden. So big opportunity for them. And like I said, some of those faces from not very far from where you're from as well. I mean, do you think that the regionality of that kind of gives you a stronger connection with some of those players, or just through some of the team building that you've done, you all have just kind of built that up pretty quickly, because it seems to be working?
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like you said, I was the only one from, Northern California, but having as many as we do now, that was something we were immediately able to connect on. And I think relationships off the court are so important for, how you play on the court. So having a lot of girls from where I'm from, we were already able to build those relationships, which already made us that much closer, and we didn't even know each other. So I think it's great having all of them out here.
Sure.
Awesome. Colby mentioned earlier just how great your rebounds have been both this season and always, really. It seems like it's spread to the rest of the team. So defense looks great this year. They're second best in the conference. I mean, you're coming out strong with conference play starting later this week. Can you tell us what's different about defense this year? Y'all doing different strategies? Do you think it comes down to the relationships of those returners? What's different with defense this year?
Yeah, so we've never done this in my 3 years here, but our very first team meeting we all got together as a team and we all wanted like a team identity specifically for defense. That's what we're pounding on this year is defense, defense, defense. Points will come. We're going to play defense. So as a team, we actually call our defense Rhonda, and we named it after Ronda Rousey. You know, she's
Nice.
tough, she's a competitor, and she's everything we want our defense to look like. So like the coaches will all like joke about it, the players, but it's like it's a real thing. So before every game, it's like, is she showing up today? Is she gonna be here today? And so far, she's been there, you know, for our
Oh my
games.
gosh, I just love it. That is fantastic. How'd you come up? So what made you pick Rhonda out of everybody out there? Did you throw around different names? How'd you land on Rhonda?
We did. I think we said like Nicki. We were thinking of like Nicki Minaj. It just went through, and then Rhonda. We just thought of like the characteristics of who she is, you know, as an athlete and what she does, and we're like, you know, yeah, we need to resemble everything that woman is. So
I love it so much. And what a great way to bring your team together on the court. You can even call each other out if you don't look great one evening and be like, where's Rhonda at?
Where's Rhonda? Exactly. No, always.
That's awesome.
Brooke, another question from you. Do you have one?
So the season is still kind of young, but you've already increased your scoring average this year compared to the other seasons, and just kind of talk to us about your off season and how you trained for that.
Yes. So
for this season.
Yeah. I think a lot of it was confidence for me. I had a lot of conversations with my coach, and she said, because last year I wasn't shooting the ball very much, you know, just kind of when opportunities came to me, I would take them. But she told me this year, you know, my role was going to change a little bit, and I needed to be able to, you know, create for my team and put up different numbers, you know, to help us to win. So hearing that from her and hearing the confidence from her just allowed me to portray that confidence on the court. And I think that's where these numbers are coming from so early. So, yeah.
Yeah, because that's definitely the case. You know, we titled this episode J Double Double because, I mean, you've had quite a few this season already. You only played 5 games, but I think that you had a double-double in 2 or 3 of those. So, I mean, like we talked about earlier, you've always been a player who has been able to find the ball, but it feels like shooting the ball a lot better. I mean, watching that Davis game, I mean, obviously I was watching the replay on ESPN Plus, which is a nice feature, folks. If you missed the game, you can always go back to ESPN Plus and rewatch those games. And I will say that the Davis announcer guy's mic was awful, but feed was good. Yeah. And so I kept, I'm watching the offense kind of play out, and it's like, man, they got to find Jadyn because like she's hitting shots tonight. Like she is going out. You were 2 for 3 from 3-point range in that game, just absolutely tearing it up. And so a lot of success early. And when it comes to scoring, like Brooke mentioned, I mean, a ton of success there already. Last question I wanted to ask was about your major, actually. So I think that sometimes what we get lost in all of this college sports stuff is you guys are actually students. You go to college. It's a thing. And so you're currently a radiological tech, rad sci. I mean, that's kind of the way I understand it. But like, talk to us a little bit about that major and kind of why you chose it. And
so actually, I've changed my major 4 times, maybe 3 times. I love it. I came into college as a psychology major. I wanted to be a sports psychologist. Then it changed to the radiology, technology, all that kind of stuff. But now I found my way into like the professional sales field. For being an athlete, it was like a hard thing to get into. They told me, at a certain point, I'd eventually have to choose between like practices and internships. So that was, something that I had to, take the time and set aside. But I'm happy in my current major now. Like I said, professional sales. I think it's very broad and it allows me to go out and find a lot of different things to do. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about that major, a lot of flexibility there. I mean, they have a completely online program. They've integrated with a lot of other programs on campus, and so they've got all these certificates now. I mean, this is Dame Lillard's major. You know what I mean? So
Right.
a lot of athletes have come through Weber State and have gone through this exact same major and have found success off the court. So I think you landed in a good spot. It seems like it's going to be a good one.
It is.
So Jadyn, I was going to ask about this last question, last question, I promise. I was looking at the schedule, and we'll talk about, we'll shout the schedule out at the end of the show here, but you all are on the road twice this week. You're going to head down to Flagstaff and take on Northern Arizona, and then later on Saturday, you'll be on the road again, heading to Portland to take on the Vikings. And so I just kind of want to understand the logistics of that. I mean, obviously, it's really, really far to go to Flagstaff. That's quite a drive. And then have to turn around and then get back on a bus and drive to Portland. Like, talk to us about some of those weird back-to-backs like that, because traditionally the way it works is if the men are at home, the women are on the road, and vice versa. If the men are on the road, the women are at home, right? And they always face the same teams. So if the men are playing NAU at home like they are on Thursday night, the women will be playing against NAU in Flagstaff. They have the exact same. All the universities have the same. So talk to us a little bit about how that works, especially a weird back-to-back this week where quite a bit of geography between these two, which normally I feel like the trips, they kind of clump them together.
Yeah. So we'll leave tomorrow morning and we'll head to Flagstaff. We'll head to Phoenix. We'll fly into Phoenix. And then we'll drive 2 hours to Flagstaff. We'll play our game on Thursday, and then on Friday morning we'll drive, another 2 hours back to Phoenix Airport, and then from Phoenix we'll fly to Portland. So that's how we clump those together, and then from Portland we'll come home. But not too much driving. I'd say the only trip we drive for are the Montanas, because we do those in the same trip, Montana State and Montana. That's the only one that's really different, but otherwise we'll fly from location to location.
I mean, is that the case too with sometimes tough to get to schools like Idaho, where there's not really it seems like you probably have to fly to Spokane first and then kind of take a drive over to Moscow. How does a trip like that work?
Yes, definitely for Idaho. That is how that works. You nailed it. Idaho State will drive. That's a quick hour and a half, I'm pretty sure. Quick drive. But no, if it's a weird location, we'll usually fly to the nearest, most popular airport, and then we'll take a bus over. So.
Got it. Well, Jadyn Matthews, want to appreciate you take some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly, a little bit about your journey and then also about what's kind of changed with the women's program this year. Because like we said, 2-3 right now, but I mean, a lot of success early. I think in all of those games, and undefeated in the Purple Palace. So can't wait to see you ladies back at home, because we've had a lot of success there. So looking forward to that. And best of luck this week as you make that's a long trip. So
it is. We're ready. We're ready.
Yeah. Well, but be ready, and obviously we'll be rooting for you. Folks, you can watch those games on ESPN+. We'll shout out the times here at the end of the show. But you can always get all these games on ESPN+. And like I said, if you're not able to watch them as they happen, because sometimes they're at earlier times, I find that the women's games are earlier in the day sometimes. You can always rewatch the games on ESPN+, which I think is a nice thing about that app. I get my $7 worth every single month, man. There's so much good sports there. But Jadyn Matthews, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly.
Yep, thank you guys for having me.
We'll see you.
Have a good night.
All right. Want to thank Jadyn once again for taking a little bit of time to chat with us. Man, like we said, ladies, some good success early, and man, hope to see that the ladies continue to find that success, because it has been a rough couple seasons, but good things happening.
Yeah, it's great to see them coming out winning already, for sure. Because last season, I know it was hard, and it had to have been hard for the women on the team. So it's good to see that they're coming together, and it's fun to hear stories about Rhonda, because it really starts to explain some of the ways that the team is really meshing. So it's been good so far.
Well, I like stories like that because it gives people in the arena opportunities. If Wildcats going to be on defense, there's a chant for the student section right there. Rhonda, I'll
see if I can start helping it out as the next game.
Yeah, because then the opposing team is confused because there's nobody on the roster named Rhonda, and they're like, "What are they doing? What does this mean?" So that's how that stuff starts. Just love it. Well, ladies, let's talk a little bit about the game that happened at Davis last weekend on Saturday. Wildcats, Wildcats ended up falling on the road, losing this one 62 to 54. But like I said on Twitter last night, I watched the game late, and I noted that, I mean, that 62 to 54 does not show how close the Wildcats were. They were in this game down 2 with a minute to go. I mean, and it should have been tied because there were a couple of opportunities there where, just missed layups. But they were in this thing. But I want to get your ladies' takes before we kind of dive in too deeply. What was the thing that stood out the most to you? Just initial takes based on what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a good game overall. I think early on in the first half, there were some times that we had a bigger gap in score, which sometimes if you're starting out that early, I think at one point we might have been down by 12 or something like that. But the team really came together, like you were saying, and there wasn't a point where they were, they stayed within 10 and closer than that most of the time. So it was great to see really how they meshed together, and a lot of what we've already talked about with Jadyn. I think the defense looks really good this year. There are probably still some things that we can do to, increase that shooting percentage on offense. But overall, I think the team looks great, and they stayed in it the whole time. And I think that's probably what the most important thing is, like to come that close with, the end of the game coming up. Gosh, I'm excited to see the rest of the season.
Yeah, Brooke, what about you? I mean, sort of initial reactions to this team in this one, this loss at Davis?
Yeah, they do seem to be better, especially the last few years. Kind of the same issues every now and then. But the rebounding is something that I've always got annoyed of, because they've always let the other teams get second chances on shots. And I think what I've thought about since last weekend is those last couple minutes where they were down just 2 and then miss layups where they could have taken the lead, and instead they miss them and let them go down and score. It mostly is those last few shots, and I'm like, you could have won that game. It was right there, and all you had to do was hit those few shots. Yeah, after UC Davis missed, that was your opportunity to go down and get a couple easy baskets. So, but that's mostly what stood out to me is those last couple minutes.
Yeah, definitely the case, because like you noted, Brooke, I mean, the defensive intensity was there. The rebounding was good, and we'll talk a little bit about this in a second. But Wildcats ended up winning the rebound game, and that's something that if you've listened to the show, we talked a lot about that with the men's team, because there was sort of this direct correlation between folks that yeah, there's my girl. There's sort of this direct correlation with when the Wildcats are not rebounding the ball well. The men's team, they really struggled. They weren't getting those extra possessions, and this year, this Wildcats team does not seem to have that problem. They seem to be clearing the glass fairly well, getting in there, fighting for those rebounds, and it's making a big difference. It's giving them opportunities to get in there. Just like you noted, Jessica, the field goal percentage is just a little bit low, and so especially in the post, I think that like shooting around the basket has been a little bit of a challenge, and so there are opportunities for high percentage shots that just aren't falling right now. And if even 25% of those shots start falling, Wildcats are winning these games, right? Because they've been in all of these games. Except for, I mean, I have to go back and check, but except for maybe Tech, the game against Texas Tech in Lubbock. I mean, aside from that, like they've been in it. You know what I mean? Like just a few more of those shots fall, and the Wildcats are 4-1 instead of 2-3 right now. Yeah. So interesting kind of the way that things are shaking out already early in the season. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Jadyn Matthews, who we just had on the show. I mean, she was huge. It was a bright spot. She had a double-double, hence the name of the show this week, J Double-Double, and I think that should be her nickname going forward. She had 16 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, what do you think was the most impactful thing that she did, though? Because obviously she was scoring the ball. She was rebounding the ball. I mean, she shot the ball well. A lot of deflections, a lot of good defense. I mean, there's a lot to like. But, I mean, I wanted to ask you ladies, what did you feel was the most impactful thing that she was doing for the Wildcats on the floor?
I think it was taking the shots. I think that she consistently is a good rebounder. I think that what really made the difference here was taking the shots. She, was right up there with the 3-point shots that she took. She took a heck of a lot of shots in the paint, and I think it's just really getting up there, getting the ball, and getting it up. And I think that she took some strategic shots. And I think that's probably I would say the most important thing she did in the game.
Yeah, fair take. Brooke, what about you?
Yeah.
What did you feel was, kind of the most impactful thing that she was doing for the Wildcats?
I think the rebounding, because every year, like I've said before, every year it's the rebounding that they don't do. Like, second chances for themselves or the other team. They always, one person will throw up a shot and they'll all be starting to run back instead of waiting for going in and getting the rebound. So I think Jadyn getting all these rebounds and other people contributing to the rebounds has been huge, because that's something I've always thought they've needed to do better. And this year it seems to have been better. But then, her 16 points, she's taking good shots, not just throwing up every single thing. Like, once in a while they do. But no, I think honestly both is points and rebounds. I mean, she's awesome.
She is.
Yeah, totally good point there. For me, I think that the most impactful thing that she did, and it doesn't tally necessarily up highly on the stat sheet because it's only 6 points, but she was 2 of 3 behind the arc, shot the very best from the 3-point line, because I think there were only 2 or 3 other players that ended up shooting threes, and those lines were like 0 for 4, 1 for 4. Those attempts just weren't falling, but Jadyn was definitely on fire. Like I said, 2 for 3, knocking down those shots. And it feels like they were timely too, because if you watch the game, knocking down threes at key points where like maybe the Wildcats are down 5, bam, hits the 3 when they need it. Now it's 2, right? Like it just doesn't, the Aggies were never able to kind of pull away because there were those timely shots being taken. And so I think that it doesn't necessarily loom large on the stat sheet, but if you watched the game, it felt like those threes were falling, and they were only just 2, but still they fell at timely points in the game, and I think it made the difference. Another thing to point out, Aggies only scored 9 points in the second quarter. Really good defense by the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Want to ask you ladies also about, we talked a little bit about this, shooting around the rim was a little bit of a struggle. There were a lot of opportunities to score what should be high percentage shots, but they just weren't falling. And so I wanted to see what you felt. Did you think that it was more a function of, the defense that Davis was putting up in the paint, because the Wildcats only scored 18 of their 54 points in the paint? Or do you think that it was just an off shooting night? Like the ball was just weird. We've heard the volleyball team talk about this, going down to like Sacramento and other places where, it's lower, the ball flies a little bit funny. Things just aren't like they are normally. Which did you all think it was? The defense on the Aggie side, or more just the ball not falling on that particular night?
More
I think it's
of
really
the ball just not falling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Just more of, to me, I feel like it was more of just it not falling, and it seems to happen every once in a while. Like a couple of them will go for a layup and miss, and it's like, really? But because a few of those layups I felt were kind of uncontested, and they just didn't go in. Some of them could have been the defense, but a few of them that I really remember that stick out were they just didn't go in, just came off the rim funny.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Brooke. I do think some of it was, turnovers for sure. I think a little bit of it is kind of what set Jadyn apart in this game, is that she'd take just the extra half second to set her shot before she took it. And it feels like, especially when we're in really either place, but it's helpful to just take that extra split second to make sure that shot's set, because we can do all kinds of things with their defense, but if it's on us, right, just for missing those close shots, I think that just taking an extra half second would be helpful sometimes.
Yeah,
definitely the case, and it felt that way, right? Like you said, when the Wildcats were on the outside trying to hit shots from the outside, they were having success because, they were getting set, they were going through. You could tell that the coaches have worked with them on shooting, and it's something that they've worked a lot on, because they were going through those motions and they were having success. Like I said, only 18 points in the paint, so the vast majority of the points came from shooting on the outside, and it was working for them. And I think especially the corner 3, that was one that I think that is getting better. It obviously didn't fall as much as they would like. There were some shots in the corner. Cord Pencer set up down there and just didn't fall. But last season that was a shot that she was knocking down, and so just like we said, maybe just off shooting night, those happen. But overall, it feels like the shooting for the Wildcats has gotten better. And now it's just a matter of, working around the rim and maybe going through some of those similar motions to get the Wildcats ready so that when they are in those situations and they want to, put the ball back up, if it's a put back on an offensive rebound or transition buckets. I think there, like you mentioned, Brooke, there were a couple of those transition buckets that didn't quite fall. Just getting ready for some of those situations. I mean, the Wildcats will be absolutely, they'll be at least middle of the conference if some of those shots start to fall.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Want to talk a little bit about, we've talked about the boards a fair bit. Wildcats win that battle 44-36, giving themselves opportunities. But I want to talk a little bit about turnovers because turnovers have been they've been tough on the Wildcats. They've turned the ball over a lot in the last few seasons. But this one, 12 turnovers is kind of a high number. But, it wasn't as bad as what Davis had. I think Davis had, let me check the number really quickly, 17. I mixed them up. I'm sorry. It was Davis that had 12 turnovers. The Wildcats ended up with 17. The turnovers continue to be a little bit of an issue for the Wildcats, just, giving the ball away. And I think a lot of that is sometimes the drives to the basket are where those turnovers happen. It seems like when they're in the set offense, when they're running half court, they don't seem to have them quite as much. But when they're kind of in transition, the offense isn't quite set. That's when a lot of those turnovers are taking place. What did you all see? Did you feel that the turnovers were more one way? Did you feel like it was more a function of Davis's defense? Because Davis played okay defense, but I really feel like they weren't locked down. You know what I mean? Talk to me about the turnovers. What did you feel was the culprit there?
Yeah, I do think that part of it was just, when we'd mess up, right? If we'd miss a shot, they'd grab it. There were a few fast break points that they had there that it felt like some of those points were a function, especially of turnovers, of just not being set and not resetting quick, right? It's exactly what you're saying of the transition points on both sides, right? When we're moving a defense to offense, we might not take that extra half second to set, and then it just keeps a ripple effect where sometimes we turn over and give up a point in that set. I think, just like we've said a whole lot, we're looking better than we have before, but I do think working on transitions is something that is going to help us moving forward in the season.
Yeah. Brooke, what are your thoughts on that? You feel like...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I totally agree that it's transition. They just get in a hurry. They just want to make the big play, and instead of, they're like, oh, we see that person, but there's two people already down the court, or or it's a bad pass not at the person. I think it is just mostly that transition that they just get hurt in a hurry instead of taking 1 second to find the open person or drive the ball. Sometimes when they could drive the ball, they don't, and then they try to make that one extra pass when they could have made maybe an easy layup, and instead they threw it away. So I think like we've said, it's the transition that they mess up on.
Yeah, I think that's always a hard thing, especially like you said, when they're in the half court set. Things seem to go pretty well. They seem to share the ball really, really well, and I think that speaks to the chemistry that we talked about. And the team building that Coach V and her team have kind of instilled in this team to say, all right, we're going to work together, and that nobody's going to play hero ball here. We're all going to work together, and we're going to make this happen, because when they're in that half court set, it seems like things go a little bit more smoothly. There are definitely some kickouts, like you said. There's a lot of probing, trying to find holes in the defense. Maybe if you're a Jazz fan, you hear the word blender a lot. Maybe a little bit of that where ball's moving around. Just kind of these slip screens happening. Where it's like, okay, we're doing this. But overall, yeah, it seems like maybe the problem that the Wildcats find themselves in is they're creating turnovers, which creates opportunities for transition, and then just not able to capitalize on the other side. I noted that of the 12 turnovers that the Wildcats caused, only scored 8 points on those. Yeah. And so, basically, you scored on 4 buckets of 12. So it's definitely an opportunity to work on. And it's kind of funny because what you find is most young teams are kind of the reverse. And this isn't such a young team anymore. I would say, like we noted with Jadyn, all of the starters are experienced. Almost always now a senior. Jadyn's a junior. Darren Hickok's a junior. I think Emma Torbert is a junior. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. And Corey Pencer's a senior. And so there's a lot of experience on that group, on that starting, 5, and then coming off the bench, a lot of younger kids. And so it would make sense that, yeah, like they play the system that Coach V has installed a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean, I think that transition will come because there are opportunities. And that's the thing that a lot of teams, when they're usually bad teams, like in the NBA and stuff, they're always really good at running the ball. They can't run the set offense. Whereas this team runs the set offense really, really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, all right, ladies, any parting thoughts before we move on to our next game?
I'm just excited to see. I think that we've had a solid preseason. Excited to start Big Sky play coming up this week. I think that I think this is a team that's going to continue to grow through the season, and we'll see good things. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist, I should say that, but it's been exciting to see how well they're doing already.
Yeah, I mean, here on this show last year we had high hopes, thinking like if this team could just go 500, that would be a huge improvement. Obviously, that didn't happen. Wildcats didn't have such a great COVID year. I think also adds to it. It was a really weird year where you're playing these back-to-backs. Just a weird year last year. But already early success. And, of course, like we noted, they've been able to have that success in this out-of-conference stuff. So once they get into conference, like Jadyn noted, I mean, they were picked dead last in the conference in the preseason. And so they're playing for pride, and they're playing to show folks that, no, we're not actually that bad. Like, we're building something in Ogden. And I think that they've shown already that maybe some of those folks were wrong to pick them dead last once again, because I think that they're going to turn some heads in conference play.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's talk about our game. So, ladies, I've got a game for you. We're calling this one Buy or Sell. So I've got a scenario of sorts for you both, and I want to get your thoughts. Would you buy or sell on the scenario that I'm going to put in front of you? So, Jessica Euler, I'm going to go first with you. Wildcats win this season more than 10 games. You buying or selling?
I'm buying.
All right. She's optimistic. She's buying.
I'm going to write this down somewhere so we can come down to it. We're 2 in. We got 8 more to go. Solid out of conference. I think, like I said, I think they're going to continue to grow as a team as we do this. We've seen defense. That's great. I'm going to go with the Rhonda mantra is going to bring us through. We might not get 11, but I'm going with 10. Final answer.
Right on the nose. So technically, I guess maybe I should have said it at 10.5. I should have said 10.5 wins. Is that a buy or a sell? She's buying. So okay.
Buying.
So I guess she got me on the verbiage there. Buying 10 wins or more. But Brooke Minnick, what about you? You buying or selling on 10 wins this season or more?
I'll probably buy. I'm always hopeful every season. Every season I'm crossing my fingers for a better season than last year, and it feels like this year will be better. I hope.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that there's reason for optimism, and I purposefully chose that number to kind of make it difficult for you all to say 10 wins. Okay, can we get there? We haven't been there in a while, and that might be a little bit of a tall order, but we've seen some good things. Set the foundation early with good defense with the squad, and so 10 wins. So all right, we got 2 buys. All right, let's go to the next one. I've got. Actually, I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna skip this one. I'm gonna bring it up at the end. So I'll go to the next one. It says Wildcats shoot better than 45% this season. You buying or selling on that, Jessica Euler?
Well, I kind of have to buy if we're going with 10 wins. I mean, when you look at our stats, when we're good, right? And when we have a down game, we do, and it shows up in our shooting percentage. I think UC Davis was a little bit different if you go back and look this year. So I'm going to go with, if we have 10 wins, so So I'm going to create qualifiers. That's what I'm doing on this game, Colby. If we have 10 wins, we will shoot at 45% or higher.
Okay. Brooke Minnick, what about you? Shooting better than 45% this season. They shot 32% in that last game with all of the opportunities with high percentage shots in the post.
How? Let's be positive and say bye.
Whoa, we got 2 buys in a row. Okay. And,
Just
sort of like
hoping.
It's a win.
transitive property. If you win 10 games or more, you're probably going to shoot 40% or maybe 45% or better. And so that
Hope so.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. I like what's going on.
Are you keeping track of what we agreed to so we can compare this at the end of the season?
I'm not. I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm going to be
Okay, good. Good. So I can change my
100%
answer
real.
later on potentially.
Totally, right? Because we played a lot of games at Weber State Weekly. I'm always coming up with something for the guys each week. And so I'm going to be honest, we don't really go back and check those. I'd say we're a little bit better about it when we do Big Sky Big Takes with the other members of the Big Sky Podcast Network, especially when we do fantasy draft. But when it comes to Weber State Weekly, we've got a short memory. Just moving on.
Okay, good.
That's good.
All right. Next one I've got for you ladies. Wildcats lead the conference in defense at the end of the season. So right now, number 2 defense in the conference. Does it hold, and can they overtake the number 1 defensive team in the conference? Thoughts?
I'm saying potentially hold will not be number 1.
Okay. She's going to sell on that one.
Selling.
Not number 1. Brooke Minnick, what about you?
Oh, I'm kind of surprised to know that they're second. So now it's kind of, Gosh, I don't know.
And I will
I'll just be positive again and say bye.
Oh, she's buying. Okay. Because I was going to say, like right now, Wildcats are only giving up 4 more points a game than number 1. So,
wow.
It's not like they're too far out there. That's a couple of baskets going this way or that.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad. See, already a better season.
Fine. All right. All right, ladies, last one. And this kind of leads up to what we've been talking about. Obviously, the thing that we would love to see the most is that, the season, the ladies will be taking the trip up to Boise and would like to see some success at Boise. And so I want to see if you're buying or selling on this one. Wildcats win 1 conference tournament game this season. You buying or selling, Jessica Willer?
Yes. They win 1 conference tournament game this season.
Okay, she's buying. Brooke Minnick, what about you?
Yeah, let's buy that.
Oh, she's buying too, man.
Obviously,
majored in pro sales.
We come in here. But I'm going, if we're 10 wins, we're coming in.
Yeah.
It all goes together. We're winning.
All right. So,
Yeah.
a lot of if this, then this, then this, then this.
All ties together.
It all ties together.
Yeah. Then let's see what happens this weekend with some conference games. Maybe I'll change my mind after this weekend.
Okay. Because like we talked about, Wildcats got a couple of tough road trips. They've got to fly to Phoenix and then 2-hour drive up north to Flagstaff, then 2-hour drive back to Phoenix to get on the plane to fly up to Portland, and then play the game there, and then they get to come home. And those games, I think that they will play Thursday afternoon, then have to hit the road Friday, get on the plane, play Saturday, come home. So interesting mix there. But
yeah.
We'll be excited to see it. All right, ladies, let's look at the upcoming schedule. So we have got Thursday, December 2nd, men's basketball taking on NAU. That's 7 p.m. in the Purple Palace. Game will be on ESPN Plus. All of these games. Well, no, I can't say that. There's a couple games that won't be. But that game will be on ESPN Plus or 103.1 The Wave. You can listen to Steve Klauke there. And then, of course, like we said, the women's team will be taking the trip down to Flagstaff, taking on NAU in the Walk-Up Skydome, 6 p.m., ESPN Plus. You can check it out there. Then Saturday, December 4th, men's team will be hosting Portland State in the Purple Palace, ESPN Plus or 103.1 The Wave. I need to check really quickly because I somehow forgot to put in my notes what time that game is going to be. So let me just pull that schedule up really quickly. So No, leave me alone. Here we go. So the men's team will be playing at 6 p.m. And then, like we said, the women's team will be playing at we'll be playing at Portland State, ESPN Plus for that one. And that game will be on TV 1 p.m. And then finally, Wednesday, December 8th, men's team will be on the road, taking the trip up to Pullman, Washington to take on the Washington State Cougars. That game will be at 8 p.m. and on the Pac-12 network, or Steve Clark will be on the radio, 103.1 The Wave. Women will be taking the trip over to Fort Collins, Colorado to take on Colorado State. That game will be at 6 p.m. I didn't see in the app if there was any place to watch that. So you might just have to watch the live stats of the box score, just kind of see how that one shakes out. Because I'm not aware of any way that you can watch that one. It didn't say that it was going to be on ESPN Plus. So that's how it goes. Ladies, wrap up the show like I usually do. If you've got questions, comments, go ahead and email us. WeberStateWeekly@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We've got Patreon. You go to patreon.com/WeberStateWeekly. Become a patron. Support our work. We've got some content coming up for our patrons first. So get in the pool. Get in early. And then we got our blog, WeberStateWeekly.com. There's a place where you can do that. So, ladies, appreciate you taking some time to chat some women's hoops. Our inaugural women's hoops show here at Weber State Weekly. Appreciate both of you for hopping on and being a part of it. I'll wrap it up like I usually do. Weber State, Weber State.
Great.
Great.
Great. Go Wildcats.